Welcome to the Kiwi Odyssey channel. Cat's Log, sea date 20th to the 27th of December 24. That's right, over Christmas. We have one sea day where we actually cross the equator, and there's a ritual that goes on that actually includes the captain going in the pool, as you can see. We are actually heading to Ecuador, and our first port of call on the 21st is Manta. And we found a shop that sells all sorts of medical equipment, including needles and IV bags. We were here for 2 days, so one of the days we went on an excursion, which was fascinating. We found out about the Panama hats and this seed pod from a tagawa tree. They can carve things out of them. They are spectacular. And we bought a manta sign with a blue-footed booby. Now, we haven't personally seen any of those, but many of our shipmates have, especially the ones that went to the Galapagos, and that is definitely something that Mark and I will do on our next trip around. That tree has the biggest spikes. It's pretty crazy, and that is a gourd, and when they're dry they can make a shaker. There's the plant that you can make carvings out of, and this part here we were supposed to be able to see some monkeys, but unfortunately they weren't around for us. But we did walk down to the bottom, and our guide found one of the smallest frogs around. Can you see him? Look how tiny it is, not even as big as his thumbnail. That's so crazy. And it looks like the very hungry caterpillar has been here. So we did get to go and have a look at a beautiful view over the ocean, and went and had a really yummy lunch. Now, I ordered ceviche, and at home that's an entree, but look at the size of this one. It's huge, but so very, very tasty. And we then went to Monte Cristi. Now, if you don't know, Monte Cristi is where they make the Panama hats.
With the white part inside.
So they give this leaf a big bang, and when it's dried out it looks white. And these hats are so intricate and all handmade. You can obviously get the knockoffs, but these ones are ranging, I think, anywhere from $60 to $500 plus. He explains that after you've chosen which shape you want, you put the mold in, and then you stick it in this machine and you give it a bit of a push, but you actually need to add some water to it to help mold it, and I think he does this a couple of times. The sound was not good on the video, so I did get rid of it. Depending on the fineness of the hat, some can take up to 4 months to make, so he also explained you had to be really careful and do it slowly because you can burn the hat, and actually that happened while we were there for one of them. After this process is done, then you take out the mold and you pull the hat out of the machine. It is truly a gorgeous hat. So fine, so light, and many of our shipmates bought them. We saw a ship fixing yard here, which was really fascinating, and we were in Manta for 2 days. Tonight's our last night, and we got some of these beautiful pictures. They had a lot of fishing boats. They catch a lot of tuna around here, and those boats were working a lot.
No giving thanks to all the Christmas joy you bring.
That was Steve Simone, and he did some really awesome talks. This one was on Stevie Wonder. He did one on Michael Jackson, and boy, that man can sing. There's a family on board that has a Christmas tradition of making these drinks, and they made us all one, and it had meringue on top. The meringue was so good. Our version of a hot toddy, but very alcoholic. Here's another one with Steve.
It's all a dream, an illusion now. It must come true sometime soon, somehow. All across the land dawns a brand new morn. This comes to pass when a child is born.
On the 24th we did stop at Puerto Bolivia, but Mark and I didn't get off because it was quite hard to get through the security there, and we decided we needed a day in. But that night we headed to Guayaquil, and we got to sail down another river. Christmas Day brought pancakes for breakfast, and we got to have lemon juice and sugar. Okay, they were crepes, but I made it work. And look at these beautiful statues of fruit that we have. Oh, it's just, the food on here is so amazing. We just couldn't be more blessed. Some of the residents came up with some Christmas games, and to do that you must have had your toes painted red and green. And they even had the captain painting toes. He is such an amazing captain, and he also had his toes painted, which was cool. Our team won the reindeer games with our beautiful reindeer on the right, and this was me winning the Father Christmas and shaving foam game. Thank you, Amy. And then they had to pick up macaroni with their feet and things. But this was Christmas, so... And then all the crew sang a special song for us.
Are we ready? On the first day of Christmas, my true love gave to me a captain on the high seas. On the second day of Christmas, my true love gave to me two cabin stewards and a captain on the high seas. And a captain on the high seas.
And actually the 4 people beside the cruise director are residents. Would you believe I have a video from the MV Ross when Mark and I were on there, and they sung that same song and reworded it, so that would be interesting to see. But the staff here are amazing, the food here is amazing. We got to talk to all our family the day before, actually, because it was their Christmas day then. We did get to talk to Sonia this morning though, as she is in the same part of the world as we are, somewhere on the sea. And the next 2 days we're also in Guayaquil, so we went out and we did 2 days of tours. This was an interesting fact. We had a police escort the whole way for the whole day on both days. They literally even stopped traffic for the bus to get through. This was the first time we got to see a gondola that goes across the river. It connects the city of Guayaquil to the neighbouring town of Duran. More about that tomorrow. They have a lot of cool statues here too.
This was one of the most important heroes of the history of Ecuador. He was born and grew up in Guayaquil during the colonial time.
I didn't manage to get photos of all the really cool statues they have, but I did get some, so you'll see those later. They have some really neat architecture here, and we're told that they have a lot of parrots flying around, so that's something I want to see. That round building was interesting. And the fruit and vegetables in these markets was so fresh. The meat and fish section was also so fresh. And the size of those prawns, they were huge. And these crabs were actually still alive, so I don't know why they weren't crawling everywhere. They obviously found a way to dye roses, which is so pretty. And oh look, I bought Mark some flowers, although I couldn't buy them because we can't take them to the ship, so I gave him a photo instead. Here's a picture of a gondola. So we're coming up to what I think is probably one of the most fascinating places I've seen so far, apart from the church, which is gorgeous. This is called Iguana Park, where you will find some iguanas. Okay, they're pretty big, and we found a few. We also found some turtles. But if you stand under the trees too long, you will get shat on. We saw some climbing up trees, climbing down trees. And one time we went around and we saw this. There were so many in there. It was crazy fascinating. This place is literally in the middle of their city. So it's a bit of a tourist attraction, and lots of people have gone there, and it was part of our beautiful day trip out. We then went along to the square where we got to see some different architecture, which is gorgeous, and we were listening and we could totally hear the parrots. So we were looking up and we managed to find some in the eaves of this building, and they really do. have an awful lot of them. So there you go. And here we have an example of when the police actually stopped the traffic so we could cross the road. They really don't want anything happening to their tourists, I don't think. We were on our way to a market and we passed these Deadpool features a lot, what are called effigies. Now I'll talk about those later, but outside this market they had some really awesome street art on the walls. And here is a monkey statue, which is really cool. And we came across a lot of Christmas trees, obviously, and nativity scenes. And look at this building. I don't know how they made it like that, but it's really cool. So we're now on our way to the oldest part of Guayaquil that has buildings that are over 400 years old. And they're just restoring them and making them look pretty. And this street, you can see the old stones on the pavement here. It's pretty incredible to be walking in these areas that are so old and have so much history. Some more beautiful artwork on the walls around here. We are actually working our way around to the back of the old town here. Look at the pretty buildings. I love the colours. They have built these houses on some wicked hills. I would be a little bit concerned being on a hill. If an earthquake comes, it's probably not so good to be there. And here we have the stairs. There's 444 and they go up to the lighthouse. We didn't get to go up because we didn't have time, unfortunately. Now we get to say goodbye to the police because they will escort us back, but we won't be getting off to say goodbye. Here we come to streets and streets of what they call effigies. They symbolise the end of the old year and the start of a new one. They burn them at midnight on New Year's Day. They are stuffed with sawdust and wood chips. Some people even put fireworks inside, and they all come to the street at midnight, put them all in the middle and burn them in a street party. And it's about the new beginning and getting rid of the old misfortunes. So you can even have these things made like people you know, so that you can have a better beginning. The next day we went to a park. It was kind of like a zoo where we got to see all sorts of really colourful birds and animals that I'd never seen before. These birds were actually saying hola, but I didn't get it on camera. The wolf whistling was cute though. These macaws and parrots were such beautiful colours. I'd never seen a blue one, and I certainly hadn't seen a black one, so there you go. And there was these little crabs coming out of the holes in the mud, and I got to see a squirrel. He was so cute. We have a white-tailed one and a brown-tailed one, but I have to say the highlight of what I saw that day had to be the Chilean flamingo. He was a little more apricot than pink, but they tell me it's because they get more pink with the more shrimps that they eat. And there was some cool different ducks that I haven't seen at home. And then there was this strange looking thing that looks like a rat without a tail. They call it some sort of wombat, but it's not like the wombats we know. And then there were foxes. Now I don't think I've ever seen a fox, so that was interesting. And then this peccary. I don't know about you, but I'd never seen a peccary either. It's kind of like a little pig. Well, the turtles we've seen, so I've seen those before. So this macaw was actually free to fly around, which was really nice. A bit like those iguanas that were in the city. Now this thing, it is called a South American tapir, and it is an extraordinarily interesting looking thing. This plant is what they make the Panama hats out of. This I thought was a crocodile. It's a caiman, so they have more than one in there. They look like crocodiles to me, but okay. They also had an ocelot, and thanks to a friend with a really good camera we got to see a little bit of it. And then there's the monkeys, and they were having a bit of a ball, running around, jumping, playing, swinging, and a whole heap more iguanas. So you just find those everywhere around here. And then a raccoon, which I got to see at one of the other islands, but that's okay. They also had some really cool buildings, and this particular one was turned into a hotel. And Mark and I went inside and had a look, and we have decided we would love to come back to Ecuador to actually stay in this hotel because it was just that cool. There were these tranquil gardens that were inside but actually still outside in here, and they just looked amazing. And there was a wedding cake going for a walk while we were there, which was rather interesting, and a really lovely church that we got to go inside and have a look at. Lots of wooden elements, and looked to me like, you know, the cardboard or wooden things that you put together to make things, then that's what it looked like. We are coming to the end of this trip in the park, and found that cool building and some chickens, which obviously we have at home, and a pheasant and another gourd, which is interesting. They have the most amazing pigeons with the most beautiful colours, which I haven't seen before, so that was fascinating. And a goat popped out to say hello. These birds I have been chasing to get photos of this whole time. Aren't they stunning colours? And here we go on our ride on the gondola, which was really interesting. We got to see a view that we hadn't seen the city in before, so that was pretty neat. Oh, actually their cemetery was very, very cool. You rent a plot for 4 years, and if you don't pay for another 4 years or ongoing, then they take you out and they use it for somebody else. And while we were sailing across the top of part of the city, we found this old hospital that actually has been there since 1564. And while some of it burnt down and they rebuilt it, it's actually been recognized as the oldest in Ecuador. And right now, what I want to say is, if you have made it all the way to the end of this video, please like and subscribe, because I'm going to try and make these better. I'm trying to work on a good way of presenting my videos, and actually a whole country at once is not going to work. We're in Brazil for a whole month. It just won't work.